You think she didn't notice, but she did. That tiny hesitation in your voice, the overthinking in your text, the way you try too hard to seem cool instead of just being real. She saw all of it. Because women don't need words to know when something's off. They feel energy, they sense weakness, and they lose respect. Fast. The brutal truth? Most men don't even know when they're bleeding attraction. You're trying to be nice, kind, understanding, but to her, you're just another man who doesn't know who he is. You chase, you apologize too much. You bend, twist, and shrink yourself to be liked. And every time you do, her attraction dies. A little more. But here's the part no one tells you. You're not weak because you were born that way. You're weak because no one taught you how to be mentally strong. That ends today. In this video, we're going to expose 7 deadly signs women pick up on, even if you don't. And more importantly, you'll learn how to fix each one using the calm, powerful mindset of Stoicism. This isn't about pretending to be alpha. It's about becoming untouchable from within. If you've ever been ghosted, disrespected, or confused why they lose interest so fast, this is the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Let's begin. 1. You seek validation too much. You ask her, "Do you still like me? Did I do something wrong? Are we okay?" You think you're being open, vulnerable, honest, but she hears something else. "I don't believe I'm enough unless you tell me I am." And the moment a man needs her to feel whole, she starts to feel less attracted. Validation seeking is one of the most invisible yet dangerous signs of weakness. It doesn't matter if you're good-looking or kind. If you constantly look outside yourself to feel worthy, you'll always seem uncertain. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That's the trap. You live to please. You try not to upset her. You keep checking, asking, worrying, until one day she loses all respect. Because women don't want a man who needs to be told he's enough. They want a man who already knows it, with or without them. So how do you stop? You stop asking and start building. Build your confidence through action. Build your worth through discipline. Build your strength through silence. You validate yourself by showing up every day for your own mission. When you no longer need her approval to feel like a man, that's when she'll finally give it. Not because you asked for it, but because you no longer needed to. 2. You apologize too much. You walk in and say, "Sorry, I'm late." You speak up and add, "Sorry if that sounded weird." You express a need and then quickly backtrack, "Sorry for asking." Sound familiar? You think you're being polite, but here's the truth. You're shrinking yourself to be tolerated. And she notices. Over-apologizing is a subtle but powerful signal. You're afraid of taking up space. You don't want to bother anyone. You don't want to seem too much, so you water yourself down, just to avoid rejection. But here's the irony. The more you apologize for existing, the less respect you'll receive. Seneca said, "Self-confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong." A Stoic man doesn't beg to be accepted. He shows up with calm certainty. He speaks with presence, not permission. So what do you do instead? Simple. Replace sorry with gratitude and intention. Instead of "Sorry I'm late," say, "Thanks for your patience." Instead of "Sorry to bother you," say, "I appreciate your time." Instead of "Sorry if I'm being annoying," say nothing. Let your words stand. Own your place in the world with quiet strength. Because every time you apologize when you haven't done wrong, you reinforce the idea that you're a burden. And you're not. You're a man with value. Start speaking like one. 3. You're emotionally reactive. She doesn't text you back and you panic. She's distant one day, and you spiral. She challenges you, and you snap. Sound familiar? This isn't strength. It's emotional fragility. And to a woman it screams one thing: he can't control himself, and if you can't control yourself, you can't lead, you can't protect, you can't be trusted. That's how fast attraction collapses. Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." In other words, when you let someone dictate your emotional state, you hand them power over your peace, over your masculinity, over your life. So what does a strong man do? He pauses, he breathes, he doesn't react, he responds. When she tests your boundaries, stays silent, or says something that stings, you don't explode, you don't chase, you stay still. Because strength is not loud, it's composed. It's in the man who doesn't need to prove his point, who can handle discomfort without falling apart, who understands that emotions are messengers, not masters. Next time you feel triggered, do nothing. Let it pass. Then speak only if it serves clarity, not ego. Because when you can stay calm while the world shakes you, you become untouchable, not just in her eyes, but in your own. 4. You over-prioritize her and abandon your mission. She says she's free tonight, and you cancel your workout. She texts mid-meeting, and you break your focus. She's upset, and you drop everything to fix her mood. You think you're being devoted, but to her, you're losing yourself. A man without direction is a man she cannot follow. The moment your world starts orbiting hers, she stops seeing you as a leader and starts seeing you as dependent. Marcus Aurelius lived by one unshakable rule: a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. Your mission, your purpose, must come before her emotions, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stay grounded in who you are. Women don't want a man who sacrifices his identity for love. They want a man who knows where he's going, with or without them. So what does this look like? You keep your routine. You protect your schedule. You chase goals, not moods. You don't disappear when she appears. You remain centered and invite her to walk beside you. If she fits into your life's purpose, beautiful. If not, you still have your path. That's the difference between being a boy seeking approval and being a man on a mission. And women feel that difference instantly. 5. You fear rejection and avoid taking risks. You see her across the room, but say nothing. You want to ask her out, but talk yourself out of it. You rehearse the message 10 times and never hit send. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just scared of rejection. But here's the harsh truth. Fear of rejection is the fear of being seen, of being exposed, of being told you're not enough. And so you hide behind politeness, timing, logic. But all she feels is hesitation, and hesitation kills attraction. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." So if you want to become mentally strong, you have to lean into discomfort, not run from it. Confidence isn't a gift, it's a muscle, and you build it by doing the exact things you avoid. Start small, say what you actually think, ask for what you actually want. Walk into situations without needing a perfect outcome. Every time you step into fear, it shrinks. Every time you avoid it, it grows. Women are drawn to courage, not perfection. Not the smoothest guy, not the loudest, but the one who moves forward despite the uncertainty. Because if you can face rejection with grace, you show her and the world that you're already complete. You're not chasing approval, you're chasing growth. That's the man who becomes magnetic. 6. You complain instead of taking action. I never get the chance. Women just don't like good guys. My job sucks. My life's unfair. Sound familiar? We all complain sometimes. But when it becomes a habit, it becomes a self-inflicted prison. Because complaining does something dangerous. It convinces you that the problem is out there. And if the problem is always out there, then you're helpless. But Stoicism flips the script. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, life doesn't owe you fairness, but you owe yourself responsibility. The world isn't perfect, people aren't perfect, but complaining never made anyone stronger, only bitter. So what do? You shut up and move. You stop talking about how bad your job is and start improving your skills. You stop whining about women and start becoming the kind of man they naturally respect. You stop explaining why life is hard and start doing hard things without a word. Because silence plus action equals power. When a man stops broadcasting his problems and starts solving them quietly, people feel it. Women feel it. The world feels it. And that's when the shift happens. You no longer need sympathy. You earn respect. Every complaint is a signal, not to speak louder, but to work deeper. 1. 7. You chase instead of attracting. You're always the first to text, the one to make plans, the one constantly checking, did she see my story? Why isn't she replying? You think effort equals interest. But there's a fine line between being consistent and being desperate. And desperation reeks of weakness. When you chase, you flip the polarity. Instead of standing in your value, you place her on a pedestal and hope she'll reach down and choose you. But women don't respect the man who waits to be chosen. They respect the man who chooses himself first. Marcus Aurelius never chased. Not fame, not favor, not people. He built himself. And what was meant to align, aligned. The same applies here. The more you chase her attention, the more she senses you don't have enough going on in your own world. No mission, no purpose, no backbone. So how do you shift? You stop reaching outward and start rising inward. You focus on becoming the kind of man who is naturally magnetic. You train, you build, you live with purpose. You become the prize. And when you're the prize, you don't run, you don't beg, you attract in silence. Not because you're playing games, but because your life is already full. The Stoic path is not about indifference. It's about being complete without needing anyone to complete you. And that kind of man, he doesn't chase women, he attracts them without even trying. 77. Winning behind. 8. You get jealous and try to control her. She laughs at another man's joke, and your heart tightens. She takes too long to reply, and your mind races. She mentions an old friend, and suddenly you're on edge. Jealousy creeps in, and before you know it, you're asking questions, setting rules, needing control. But here's what you don't realize. The moment you try to control her is the moment you lose control of yourself. Jealousy doesn't signal love, it signals fear. Fear of loss, fear of being replaced, fear that deep down, you're not enough. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Her actions, her choices, her past, all beyond your control. What is in your control? Your reaction, your values, your self-respect. A Stoic man doesn't panic when she gets attention. He doesn't spiral when she pulls away, because his worth isn't defined by her behavior. So what do you do when jealousy hits? You pause. You don't act. You observe. You remind yourself, if she's truly for me, nothing will take her away. If she's not, nothing I do will make her stay. Real power is not in holding someone tighter. It's in letting go and still standing strong. Because when you stop trying to control her, you show her, and yourself, that you are the one thing no one can control. And that is true attraction. 9. You have no boundaries or personal code. You say yes when you mean no. You let her cancel last minute again and again. You tolerate disrespect just to keep the peace. You call it being nice. She calls it what it is, weakness. Because a man without boundaries is a man without a spine. he bends, he pleases, he becomes whatever others want him to be, until there's nothing left of him. But here's the truth. Respect begins where you draw the line. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That includes mastering your time, your energy, your values. Women aren't attracted to yes men. They're drawn to men who say no with calm certainty, who have a personal code and stick to it, even when it's hard. So what does this look like? You don't accept flaky behavior. You don't abandon your schedule to accommodate chaos. You don't argue endlessly to be understood. You walk away with grace. Because boundaries are not walls, they are doors that only the worthy are allowed through. When you respect yourself deeply enough to protect your peace, the world starts to respect you too. And if someone walks away because of your boundaries, let them go. You didn't lose them. You found yourself. And a man who knows his worth never begs to be kept. If you recognized yourself in these signs, don't feel ashamed. Feel awakened. Because most men aren't weak by nature. They're just never taught how to be strong, in silence, with presence, with purpose. They were taught to please, to chase, to perform for love, instead of become love. But now, you know better. True strength isn't in flexing your muscles, raising your voice, or proving your worth. It's in stillness. It's in restraint. It's in choosing your mission over mood, your peace over chaos, your standards over desperation. A Stoic man doesn't need to chase validation. He lives in a way that makes it inevitable. So from this day forward, set your code, guard your energy, and walk with quiet confidence. Because the world doesn't need more loud men, it needs more solid ones. If this message stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel, not for us, but as a commitment to yourself, that from this moment on, you rise, stay grounded, stay focused, stay stoic.